Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NFL with Kyle. Today, we are going to be talking about which 2024 NFL draft picks, actually, specifically, which day three 2024 NFL draft picks could compete for starting snaps in year one. Most players picked on the third day of the NFL draft, when rounds 4 through 7 are held, are typically expected to contribute as a reserve or a special teams player. That's why Shannon Sharpe first got his first opportunity on special teams, because he was, I believe, a 7th round draft pick. Let me take a look. I have his card right here. Let's see if it says, yep, drafted round 7 out of Savannah State. He came in and made an impact on special teams, and then he earned himself the opportunity to play tight end on the starting offense, and then became one of the greatest to ever do it. Brock Purdy, picked with the last pick in the last round of the NFL draft, just took his team to the Super Bowl and went head-to-head with Mahomes and didn't look like he didn't belong there. So there's always players, and I say this about every team. The best teams draft well, not rounds 1 through 4, but rounds 5 through 7, right? That's where you kind of separate yourself, because let's say for 3 years in a row, you have drafted between rounds 5 and 7, 2 players per year that are making a legitimate impact on your team. In the span of 3 years, that's 6 players. That's almost half of one side of the ball. So if you can hit on these late draft picks, it can really change the dynamic of your team and kind of overload you with talent. Like when you think about which teams are a little overly talented, you think of the Eagles, a team that drafted extremely well, again, getting Cooper DeJean, and also getting Quinyon Mitchell, being able to get both of those guys, right? You look at the Rams, who got Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk, and then also turned around and got who else did they get? They got another good player. I can't think of his name right now. They got a couple really good players. The 49ers, who got Mustafa in round 5, somebody that I think is going to be a good safety in the NFL. Look at the Chargers, right? Who was it that fell to Jerry Rice's son? Fell all the way to the 7th round. I expect him to make an impact. So, especially with the what's his name, Mike Williams, and I'm blanking on his name, traded to the Bears. Whatever, it'll come to me. A great wide receiver who just got pretty much a 1-year contract. Let me see. I can't move on without saying his name, because it's really, really frustrating to just blank on a name. Keenan Allen. Thank you. Keenan Allen. Okay, so Keenan Allen is gone. Mike Williams is gone. A 7th round pick in Rice. He might see some actual playing time with Justin Herbert and this new offense. So I want to take a look at which players drafted, which day 3 rookies, right? So anybody that was drafted day 3, when rounds 4 through 7 happen, which ones are going to compete for starting snaps in year 1? We're not talking about special teams. We're not talking about will they make the roster. We're saying these are the players that have a chance to actually start year 1. All right. So starting right off the bat at number 1, we got the Indianapolis Colts, Tanner Bortolini. He was drafted in the 4th round at 117th overall, a guard from Wisconsin. He was center for the Badgers in 2023, but the Colts identified his position as guard when the pick was announced. He started at least one game at every offensive line spot. Excuse me. Except for left tackle during his college career. So he knows his way around multiple positions, very versatile. He could wind up being the apparent to center Ryan Kelly, who's due to become a free agent after 2024 season. But as a rookie, Bortolini could compete at right guard with Will Fries, who is also in the final year of his deal. So that's a depth piece right there. And potentially somebody that's good enough to come in and maybe take the job of a Will Fries. So especially coming off that final year. And I don't know, maybe the expectation's not that he'll start this year, but that he'll learn behind Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, who are both set to become a free agent. So after this year. So don't know if I agree with this one. We'll see if he can outdo Will Fries for that position. All right. Coming in at number 2, you have DeCamerion Richardson, cornerback out of Mississippi State, who was drafted to the Raiders in round 4 at 112 overall. The Raiders cornerback group was very inconsistent last season and lacked size, so it was a natural fit for the 6'2" Richardson to land in Las Vegas. His sub 4.4 speed is another bonus at 188 pounds. And though he possesses only average short area agility, his physical play against larger outside receivers will be useful as he grows into a larger role over the course of the season. All right. I definitely think that he's going to be starting, especially when you look at the Raiders and how bad they were last year at defending the pass. And I think they did make a move though. So I want to pull up who is in their DB room. I'm looking at Raiders.com/roster. All right. So we got, let's organize it by position. All right. Corners. We got a lot of corners. Okay. Jacorian Bennett, Carnell Armstrong, MJ Devonshire, Brandon Faxon. I think I'm saying that wrong, but I might have said it right one of the 5 times I attempted it. Woo Governor, Nate Hobbs, Jack Jones, DeCamerion Richardson, Jaquan Shepard, Sam Webb, and Rashad Williams. So, of course, the roster right now has a ton of names on it. Everybody's does because of all the unrestricted or undrafted rookies that have moved over. So I know for the Broncos, I think they signed 12 undrafted free agents, and now you start to see every team. I know the Rams got like 20 people, right? So a lot of these guys don't even have a picture, and you can tell no picture. It says they're a rookie. You can tell that they're just undrafted. But the guys that do have a picture and that have been playing, you got Nate Hobbs, all right, and then Jack Jones. He's got 3 years of experience. And then you have Brandon Faxon. He is 31 years old. He's got 7 years of experience from Virginia Tech. But I definitely think DeCamerion Richardson was drafted to land on one side of the football field, right? I don't think he's going to come in and play nickel, even though he does have that short area quickness and a very physical play. But he can also hang with the larger size NFL receivers. And I think he will come in maybe at a nickel position or in specific packages. But by the end of the year, he's one of the 2 corners that see the field every play. Okay. And then at 3, and I couldn't agree with this one more. I agree with this one already more than the others. Jatavion Sanders, drafted in the 4th round with the 101st overall pick. So the 3rd round ended, and then the very first pick the next day was Jatavion Sanders. And I actually tweeted that night, I expect Jatavion Sanders to be off the board early tomorrow. And he was the first pick. Okay. And the reason I was talking about that was because my buddy who's a Giants fan was trying to get a tight end, and I thought maybe Cade Stover would go there. Regardless, the Panthers selected Sanders with the first pick of day 3 to provide juice to a solid but unspectacular tight end group. Coaches should be setting up the smooth mover on seam routes in the red zone, making him a favorite target for Bryce Young by the middle of his second season running the show. So, yeah, you look at Ja'Tavion Sanders. Some people had Ja'Tavion Sanders as the second best tight end. Some people had him third. Nobody had him first. Everyone knows that was Brock Bowers. But there were a lot of people that were really high on Ja'Tavion Sanders, not as somebody that's just going to come in and compete. Like, I'm not talking about, the Packers who have, a 2 tight end situation. This is somebody that they want to kind of rise to the top of the depth chart and be a favorite target for Bryce Young, who was lacking weapons last season. I think this is going to work. I think Ja'Tavion Sanders would even be worthy of being drafted in your fantasy football. He could become a true safety blanket for Bryce Young. And I agree, by the middle of the second season for Bryce Young, he's going to be looking for that which he didn't have last year. And I think it's going to be Ja'Tavion Sanders. All right. Coming in at number 4, Cedric Gray, linebacker out of North Carolina, drafted to the Tennessee Titans in round 4, 106th overall. So another early day 3 guy. Gray will attack downhill against the run as a blitzer, 5 sacks, 11 sacks for a loss in 2023. So he does have that against the run and strong blitzing linebacker kind of personality. He possesses enough speed and agility to drop into short zones. He can track down running backs in the flat. Now, that's a great thing. I remember that was a big problem for the Broncos, was that our linebackers didn't have the speed. They could just dump it off to the running back, and the running backs were basically outrunning our linebackers. So if you get a linebacker that's running a 4.4, 4.5, usually if you look at their scouting report in their strengths, it'll say, good coverage linebacker. So this is the Titans' new guy. He's the guy they have last year. Jack Gibbens started 13 games last season, but he was re-signed to only a 1-year deal for the veteran minimum salary this offseason. The general manager, Ran Corthan, recently said that Gray and Gibbens will sort out the competition for a starting spot, with the winner potentially landing defensive play calling duties. So Cedric Gray, although picked in the 3rd round, somebody that Tennessee is saying, look, man, this is yours if you want it. Come and take that job, right? Jack Gibbens, veteran minimum, 1-year deal. That looks like the kind of deal that you make as a backup plan. So this one I very, very, very much agree with. Cedric Gray is plan A for the Titans, a day 3 guy, plan A. Number 5, probably my favorite one on this list, and I couldn't agree with it more. Troy Franklin to the Denver Broncos. This was awesome. If you guys didn't see, after the Broncos drafted Bo Nix, and then after rounds 2 and 3 happened, everybody was on Broncos media, because at the end of the draft, we were all like, guys, why is Troy Franklin falling so far? Some people had him as the 3rd, 4th best, even 2nd best wide receiver in this draft. There's been a lot of opinions about Troy Franklin, all being very good. Now, what made him fall, I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate, but the fact is Denver, and I don't know if they were throwing the fans a bone, but it seemed like everybody was on Broncos Twitter like, are you hearing anything about the Broncos drafting Troy Franklin? Are you hearing anything about it? And all the Broncos insiders said, no, we're not hearing anything about that. We were like, damn. And when I say all of the Broncos insiders, I'm specifically talking about Albert Breer, one of the people that hosts the radio, a radio station. I think it's Locked On Broncos for the Denver Broncos. Anyway, we were hearing, okay, maybe that's not part of the plan. And you know what? Whatever. We'll just have to wait and see. So day 3 starts with Jatavian Sanders coming off the board, and then all of a sudden, the Denver Broncos have traded up to the 102nd overall pick. And with the 102nd overall pick, the Denver Broncos select Troy Franklin, Oregon, wide receiver. And we all went absolutely crazy because Troy Franklin, all on his own right, is somebody that you could be excited about if he was drafted to your team. Now you add in the fact that him and Bo Nix were the best connection in Oregon, and you're keeping the band together. This is very similar to the Rams drafting Brendan Fisk and Jared Verse, right? Sometimes just keeping the band together is worth the draft pick, and then you include how talented he is. And now you look at this Broncos roster. I know Jerry Jeudy's gone, but you take a look, and it's like if Tim Patrick's healthy after missing the last 2 seasons, he's going to join Marvin Mims, Courtland Sutton, and Josh Reynolds in the main receiver rotation. All right. But if any player from that group fails to perform to the expectations or suffer an injury, like I said, Tim Patrick has been healthy the last 2 seasons, unhealthy. Not his fault. It happened in practice, in Achilles, and then I think MCL, I can't remember, but 2 season-ending injuries back to back. So his health is not a guarantee, to say the least, although I hope he does stay healthy. Marvin Mims made the Pro Bowl as a punt returner, as a rookie last season out of Oklahoma. And Sean Payton said after the season that he thinks that he could have had Marvin Mims more involved in the season. And then I think he doubled down when he got Jerry Jeudy out of the building and was like, okay, Marvin Mims, you're kind of stepping up here, right? Look around. It was kind of like when Von Miller left town, right? It's like, look around. This is the group we got. Now, who's going to take these jobs? Is it Marvin Mims? But I'm telling you right now, if you have Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, and Marvin Mims on the field, that's a really good wide receiver group. And now you throw in that Troy Franklin can potentially be on a pitch count with Tim Patrick, so maybe Tim Patrick doesn't get hurt. But don't forget, when Tim Patrick was healthy, he was the best receiver on the Broncos team, not Courtland Sutton, not Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick is that dude. Big body, great hands, hard worker. But if you don't want him to get hurt again, you put him on a pitch count. Definitely agree. Troy Franklin will see the field. I think he'll be on the field a lot. I don't think he was drafted to be on the sidelines. And the fact that Denver was able to get a player that's going to make as much of an impact on this offense in the 4th round, I mean, this feels like a pick that I would have been happy about in the 2nd round, right? If they went Bo Nix in the 1st and they didn't have a 2nd round pick, but if they did and they drafted Troy Franklin, I would have been stoked about that. So you can only imagine how I feel that we got him in the 4th. Coming in at number 6, we have Ray Davis, a running back out of Kentucky for the Buffalo Bills. And this is an interesting take here because the Bills were fortunate that Davis was still available late in the 4th round. His strengths through contact will be a nice complement to James Cook's slashing style. I wouldn't be surprised to see Davis start in several games to set a tone in the run game and keep Cook fresh so he can more regularly explode for big plays. So a true 1-2 punch. I think it's fair to say that, based on this title, who will compete for starting snaps? Ray Davis is a good pick here. All right, let's be real. Like, this guy's going to be on the field early, week 1, starting reps. He's going to be going in kind of like reminds me of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. That 1-2 punch. James Cook comes in slashing. Ray Davis comes in just powerful, fighting for, 1-2 yards, short goal line situations, all that stuff. So I agree. Now, Coming in at number 7, we're leaving the 4th round and we're going to go all the way to the 6th round. Now, before you go, let me tune this out. Puka Nacua was drafted in the 6th round. Okay. This is Casey Washington, wide receiver out of Illinois, drafted to the Falcons. I don't expect Puka Nacua like record-breaking seasons, but I do expect him to produce for Kirk Cousins. Like Nacua, Washington is a tough, reliable pass catcher on short and intermediate routes with slightly better speed than Nacua. Check his 40 time. Veteran offseason acquisitions Darnell Mooney from Chicago and Rondell Moore could see their roles reduced if Casey Washington goes out there and starts balling out early. So the Falcons, man, they got a lot of options. This is a very loaded roster. And with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, I do see this team fighting with the Bucs for the division. Coming in at number 8, we have Dadrian Taylor Demerson, Texas Tech defensive back. I think the Cardinals need to get Demerson off the field as a nickel defender in 2024, or get him on the field as a nickel. This is kind of similar to the first one, coming in at nickel and then, maybe making his way up. So he comes in at nickel with his cover ability in the slot. It should be utilized, and I expect him to be effective rotating deep as well if the team wants to use Budda Baker, who's in the final year of his contract, and Jalen Thompson in the box. It won't be a surprise if DTD starts 8 games this season, because they're definitely going to want to see what they have with him, right? It was a kind of a new era with new coaching staffs. The Vance Joseph was their defensive coordinator for the last couple years. Now he's back with the Broncos. So yeah, they're going to want to see what they got in him. And this was 4th round, 104th overall. Coming in at number 9, we have Tyrese Knight, Texas El Paso linebacker to the Seattle Seahawks. Veterans Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dotson signed 1-year deals to join Seattle's linebacker group this offseason, but Knight has a good choice to be a starter at some point in this season. He reads plays well. He's good at working through blocks and disengaging them to be able to wrap up ball carriers, and he has the speed to stop backs from trying to get to the sideline, which was what we talked about early, of how important the speed at the linebacker position is. That makes him a good fit inside for the Seahawks, and expect to see him on the field. Coming up, this is one that I probably agree with the second most. Cedric Van Pran, the center out of, they have him listed here as an interior offensive lineman, but interior. Is that a left tackle? I'm not sure. It's IOL. I'm not sure what that stands for. Let me look it up. IOL, meaning in NFL. Interior offensive lineman. Okay, so that's what I said. Anyway, round 5, 141 overall to the Buffalo Bills. This was a guy that was the starting center for the Bulldogs in both of their national championships. This is somebody that was ranked number 1 in his position, I think he was the number 1 center. Let me take a quick look. All right, here we go. So 2024 offensive line, and let's see. Offensive line, okay, so where is he? So drafted by the Bills. Cedric Van Pran. Okay, here he is, 19. Prospects. So Jackson Powers 1, Zach Frazier 2, Cedric Van Pran 3. So this was the 3rd best center in this year's draft. And for some reason, he continued to fall and fall and fall. So when the Bills finally picked him up, I was like, wow, they just got a starter in round 5. Connor McGovern is in line to move to center after the release of Mitch Morse this offseason. And with Ryan Bates being shipped to Chicago, the Bills' interior depth is limited. Van Pran was a stalwart for 3 seasons at Georgia, so he has the game to step into a starting spot if needed due to injuries or ineffectiveness of the veterans ahead of him on the depth chart. So another guy with versatility, not sure how they're going to use him. And we got Ginge in the chat. Yo, what's up? How's your day going? I'm doing good, Ginge. Hope you're doing good too. Good things coming. Good things coming ahead. I put out a Reddit post about trying to interview some people, and I got like 34 people that were interested in it. So I'm going to be having a ton of interviews coming up. So definitely keep an eye out for those. So yeah, the Cedric Van Pran is definitely going to come in and play one of the positions. So another guy, round 5, that's going to start. Another round 5. This one is 157th overall. Chu Smith-Wade, the cornerback out of Washington State. So former Buffalo cornerback Dane Jackson will likely take over the starting spot vacated by Dante Jackson, who was traded to Pittsburgh for Deontay Johnson. As for the other top cornerback on the roster, J.C. Horn has struggled to stay healthy during his 3-year career, and Troy Hill will turn 33 years old before the start of the season. So Smith-Wade could get opportunities at nickel or outside. He lasted into the 5th round because he lacks ideal size and speed, but he's a competitor who can stick to receivers downfield. So especially on that defense ran by Evero, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, maybe besides Vic Fangio. But dude, this guy's gonna definitely see some playing time. Fangio knows how to get people involved in the game, and let's just pull up really quick Smith-Wade's draft profile and see when he was projected to be drafted. So he ran a 4.54, and when they say he doesn't have the ideal size, he's 5'10", 184. So it does kind of fit that nickel position. He played little as a freshman and as a sophomore, but he played in 11 games and logged 277 snaps for the Cougars. He made just 8 tackles, 6 assists, and had no stops. In coverage, he totaled 3 pass breakups, 1 interception, and a QB rating when targeted of 58.8. So his strengths: displays commendable willingness to engage in run support, known for his quick feet and excellent lateral movements. He possesses a keen eye for identifying route concepts. He does sound like a nickel, right? His competitive nature and route running skills are top notch. He has a deep understanding of the game and has the ability to anticipate his opponents. And then his weaknesses: he's prone to grabbing and man-to-man coverage, could result in some penalties. Struggles at time when turning and locating the football in coverage, limits his ball production and interception opportunities. Sometimes overcommits to initial moves by receivers, what can lead to him getting roasted. And only average speed, especially given his size. It's not an elite athlete by any means. So he was projected to go, let's see, where was his projection? I think, it's at the top. Okay, projected draft was the 6th round. So they got him in the 5th round. So that could be considered a reach. We'll see. All right. Mason McCormick, round 4, 119th overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. McCormick has the toughness and athleticism to take a starting spot from James Daniel. That potentially means the Steelers would start 3 rookies on the offensive line, but some Steeler fans might argue McCormick, left tackle Troy Fontenot, center Zach Frazier will quickly constitute an improvement over last year's group despite their lack of experience. These are three. I mean, the Steelers drafted nasty, tough, just grinders. They knew that they needed to make the offensive line a wall for Russell Wilson to work. Oh, damn, Jinja, I don't know if you saw, but I just got a new tattoo. I'm super excited about it. So my brother owns a bar in Miami called Mama Tried. So I ended up I got the name Mama Tried. Actually, I'll just show you. Mama Tried. It's still healing. It's got a little bit of what do you call it? Scabbing. I'm trying not to itch it. But it's almost done. Love that. Love the new tat. All right. Number 13, Tarheeb Still, cornerback out of Maryland, drafted to the Chargers at 137th overall. The Chargers met their need for an infusion of young talent at cornerback by picking Still and Cam Hart in the 5th round. I'm giving a slight edge over Hart in getting starts this season because Still is the more versatile player. He could step into the nickel spot if needed. Tommy Eichenberg, totally agree with this one. Linebacker out of Ohio State that was drafted in the 5th round at 148 overall. The Raiders found a potential starting linebacker in Eichenberg. The former Buckeye probably won't play in obvious passing situations, but if the offense tries to bully lighter boxes, the Raiders might want to counter by playing an extra run stopper like Eichenberg alongside returning starters like Divine Diablo and Robert Spillane. And last but not least, the 15th day 3 draft pick that could compete for starting reps is Walter Rouse, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, playing for the Minnesota Vikings. It's not unusual for a day 3 offensive tackle to be thrusted into a starting role at some point in his rookie year due to injuries up front. Rouse could be in position to get that chance as the Vikings lack the depth at the position. He's a stout, experienced player who won't shrink from the opportunity if an injury sidelines Christian Darrisaw, who missed at least 2 games in each of his first 3 years in the NFL. So, and then I think that's why, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's why the Vikings signed Dalton Risner last season, because Dalton Risner, we didn't pick up his contract, and then he was a free agent and nobody picked him up. And then the Vikings had an injury and they called him, and I follow his wife on not Instagram, YouTube. I just see her on YouTube. But she was kind of posting like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Now we're going to Minnesota." And he really embraced Minnesota. He's a great locker room guy. And I think Dalton Risner finally got a deal. Let me see. Where's Dalton? I think he's with the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. Dalton Risner. All right. Ooh, one hint suggests that Risner could be back in purple. Actually, just because Minnesota hasn't re-upped with Dalton Risner yet doesn't mean his future in the Twin Cities is sealed. The one word from Star Tribon this week. He's okay. So Andrew Kramer subtly cracked the door open for Risner return. The Vikings did not move to bring back Risner, who started 11 games last season after signing in September, but that doesn't mean that they won't, seeing how he left the guard spot and seeing how the left guard spot shakes out during the summer. The most experienced options are currently Blake Brendel and Dan Freeney. Outside of using a second-round pick on right guard Ed Ingram in 2022, the Vikings regime has not allocated big resources to the offensive line. Okay. When the 2023 season concluded and former left guard Ezra Cleveland was long gone via trade to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Minnesota fans believed that Reisner would re-sign with the Purple team after a successful first campaign. But then when March and April hit, with crickets. Reisner even hired Powerhouse Sports agent Drew Rosenhaus as his representation 2 months ago. To no avail, though, May 7th. Reisner helped solidify the Vikings' pass protection in 2023, a welcome trait among the team's fans during the Mike Zimmer era. Guards notoriously struggled to protect the quarterback, so when Reisner did so with relative ease, he became an instant fan favorite. Now, of course, those fans want him back for a sequel. Reisner's overall PFF grade of 57.1 didn't set records, but his 67.4 pass blocking score was music to the ears of Viking fans. According to The Athletic's Alec Lewis, money is evidently the sticking point for Minnesota's front office and Reisner's free agency. Until free agent Dalton Reisner lowers his monetary ask, he's recently switched agents, like we just said. It's difficult to see a path towards his return. Reisner's price demands are unclear, but they must be significantly higher than his September addition last year to Minnesota's roster. Otherwise, Minnesota could turn to Brandel at left guard, but when you look at Reisner, man, a great guy in the locker room, somebody that cares deeply and wants to win. Walter Payton Man of the Year nomination, does so much for the community. Just the type of guy you want to pay long term. I just really hope for Dalton Reisner that day is coming. But with Walter Rouse being drafted, we will wait and see the Vikings offensive line, how that whole thing shakes up. But that was my version of the guys I guess I agree and don't agree with of who will be the potential starting rookies. Now, there was a couple other things I wanted to go over really quick. Cowboys are working out free agent wide receiver Zay Jones. So free agent Zay Jones is visiting the Cowboys today, the team announced. The visit comes on the same day that Dallas releases Martavius Bryant. Jones, who grew up and played football in Dallas, was released by the Jaguars last week after 2 seasons with the club. He's only 29 years old, but he's coming off of an injury-laden campaign, which limited him to only 9 games. But he recently produced a career-high numbers during his first season in Jacksonville. He had 82 receptions, 823 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Dallas saw firsthand how effective Jones can be when healthy during that career-best season in 2022, when the dynamic 6'2" wideout scored a career-high 3 touchdowns versus the Cowboys. He had 6 catches for 109 yards in that game, and it was a high-scoring win for the Jaguars. Now, the Cowboys are apparently looking to find a replacement for Michael Gallup, whose release came because of salary cap reasons, but Gallup served as a viable third option for Dak Prescott behind CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. But early career injuries ultimately marred the initial promise shown by the former third-round pick. So the Cowboys still trying to find who's going to be that number 3 guy. And what's really funny about this is that the Cowboys are all in. And now here they are working out Zay Jones for maybe filling the wide receiver 3 position. So really funny. Jolin Tolbert, Kavontae Turpin, Jalen Brooks, and Ryan Flournoy currently round out the wide receiver depth chart in Dallas. But Jones's experience alone would be considered an upgrade. And I think so too. Like, you look at that list of people, Turpin, mostly a receiver or a kick returner, punt returner. Jones has previously visited the Titans and Cardinals before going to Dallas today. Tennessee has since signed veteran receiver Tyler Boyd, which figures to signal the Titans' decision on the wide receiver front as teams begin to gear up for OTAs. I think this is going to happen. I think he's going to have a good workout. I think the Cowboys are going to sign him. So I think it's actually a really good fit for the Cowboys. So we'll see how that pans out. Will Jayden Daniels start week 1? That's the question. Now, some people said that he was a project. Some people said he's the best quarterback in this year's draft. A lot of different opinions on Jayden Daniels, but we all agree that he was not drafted too high at number 2. Most of us, right? The Washington Commanders drafted Jayden Daniels, and as with most top 5 picks, the Heisman Trophy winner is expected to start from the jump. But Daniels told Keyshawn Johnson on All the Facts, No Breaks podcast that he's not worried about that minor detail. Do I anticipate starting week 1? I mean, I'm confident in my abilities, but that's a decision that they've got to make. That's above me. When pushed by Johnson, Daniels added, "From what I've heard, they've said whenever I'm ready, I'm ready. So whenever I feel like I'm ready, I'm ready. They didn't tell me, oh, you got to start week 1. They just said whenever you're ready, you're ready. Whenever you feel ready, we feel ready. We're going to throw you out there." That's a lot of being ready. The rookie is smartly playing the humble savior, barring something disastrous. He'll for sure be in the lineup week 1. The 23-year-old isn't a raw prospect with little experience who needs time to sit on the sideline. He started 55 games over 5 college seasons with Arizona State and LSU, throwing 12,750 yards and 89 touchdowns. Daniels earned plenty of seasoning at the collegiate level, and he's ready to make, or he's a ready-made to start from the jump. So I mean, honestly, I didn't think that there was any other option. Of course, they have Marcus Mariota as the primary backup, but no way in hell Marcus Mariota is going to start over the number 2 overall pick. It's just not going to happen. Jayden Daniels, of course, is just trying to be humble. Hey, that's not my call. That's on them. I'm just here to put my head down and work hard and earn it. By the way, those are all the right things you're supposed to say. You know, the fact that the NFL even wrote an article about this is just dumb. Like, just because he said the right thing doesn't mean that this is even worth talking about. I almost feel bad for bringing it up here. Um, but it is on the list of NFL news for today. So, we did top 10 rookies set up for success. That's what we did yesterday. Hopefully you guys saw that one. Strength of schedule, which is something that we briefly touched on, is a very fluid thing, right? Because everybody has their own way of determining strength of schedule, and normally it's a very lazy way of doing it. You take the win-loss total from last year, and then you determine how good they're going to be this year by using last year's data. They don't account for Aaron Rodgers and the fact that he didn't play for the Jets, and now the Jets are a much better team. So I'm going to have my own strength of schedule, but here's just a close look. A very quick and dirty way of doing this is just to take the wins, losses from last season, add them all up. So when you look at who has the hardest schedule, Cleveland, Baltimore, Pittsburgh are right there with their opponent record being 158 and 131, 0.4547 win percentage. Then the Ravens, 0.536, with opponents being 155 and 34 and 134 instead of 158 and 131. Then you got the Steelers. Opponents are 154 and 135. That's 0.533. Then you got the Texans, Packers, Giants tied with 6, Buffalo Bills, Jags, Raiders, Patriots, Lions, Rams, Niners, Cowboys, Jets, Bengals, Commanders. That's going to be the Commanders will be fine. Their opponents last year went 145 and 144, almost exactly 500. Vikings, Chiefs, Denver Broncos, Colts, Eagles, Titans, Cardinals, Seahawks, Dolphins, Bucks, Chargers, Panthers, Bears, Saints, and Falcons. So the NFC South really kind of all lingering here at the very bottom. Very easy schedule. The Chargers tied for 27th. They're going to have an easy, quote unquote, easy go. The Baltimore Ravens face 10 playoff teams from 2023. That's one more than any other club. They play Cleveland twice, Pittsburgh twice, Philly, Buffalo, KC, Dallas, Houston, and Tampa Bay. The Bengals play 9 playoff teams: Cleveland twice, Pittsburgh twice, Baltimore twice, Philly, Kansas City, and Dallas. 49ers also have 9, Rams twice, and that's their only division, right? That made it to the playoffs last year. Like the Ravens and Bengals, it's like they had 9 and 10, but a big reason is because Cleveland and Pittsburgh both went to the playoffs. So right there, you're starting with 4. The only one that made it out of the NFC West is the Rams in that division, and of course the 49ers. So you take the Rams 2, but now look at this: Detroit, Dallas, Kansas City, Green Bay, Miami, Buffalo, Tampa. That's tough. All right. The Cowboys also 9, Philly twice, Baltimore, Tampa, Houston, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Those are the teams that are going to be playing the most difficult schedule next season. And we're going to further break down the schedule based on many different factors, not just the win-loss totals from next year. And the Packers offense is ready to take the next step in 2024 with a more experienced roster. Last season, not only was Green Bay starting the Jordan Love era at quarterback, but the pass-catching corps was uber green with first and second-year players littering the group. After finishing the campaign, the Packers entered the 2024 offseason in a much more secure position. And this is what offensive coordinator Adam Stefanich said last week on the team's official website. It's night and day. Night and day because last year you really didn't know what direction you could go because you didn't really know. So there's the front office admitting that they didn't know how the Jordan Love experiment would go, not acting like, well, yeah, it's very easy when you draft a player and that player goes out and he overachieves. It's very easy to say, yeah, we knew he was going to be that. That's why we drafted him. But right here, you get a little bit of honesty. Like, we didn't really know what direction we were going to go in with Jordan Love. I mean, we just didn't know. How much can you put on these guys' plates and allow them to go out and execute? Now, everyone has a year under their belt, so to speak, so it's been great to just know what these guys are good at. So he's also talking about not just Jordan Love, but the other offense, the wide receiver options. Like, they're all so young. It was the youngest team in the NFL. You don't really know what they're good at. You don't really know what they're bad at. You don't really know, okay, can they handle these type of routes, or do they need to be more simplified? Now everybody's got a year under their belt and you're like, okay, I know what you're good at. I know what you're good at. I know what you're good at. I know where you excel. It's it's like picking a karaoke song. You got to pick the song that you know. You got to call the plays that your players can excel at. Green Bay's quarterback and pass catching group entering year 2 together makes the offseason install quicker for Stefanich and head coach Matt LaFleur, which should allow them to find a groove earlier in the season instead of like last season where it took till week 8. And this is what Stefanich said: we can go out there right now and just run plays, and it's not like we're installing everything for the first time. We can start experimenting faster and taking the next steps with the offense. It's kind of like you have to be able to do the fundamentals first before you can kind of reach into your bag and grab some of those other tricks. A lot of the stuff that Sean McVay, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, what these guys do, you don't even have the opportunity to do stuff like that in your first season because you need to start with the fundamentals. It sounds like he's saying, I'm excited to start experimenting on new plays, new philosophy, maybe using the players' gifts and what they excel at, drawing plays up to put them in situations that are trick plays, but maybe one of your receivers has a really good arm and he's going to throw it. Like, we're gonna just see, but expect the Packers offense to be more explosive this year. The 2023 season was supposed to be a retooling campaign with Jordan Love at the helm, but the Packers made the playoffs, won a playoff game by blowing out the Cowboys, and the expectations in 2024 are higher now with Jordan Love and those young pass catchers continuing to grow together. This is supposed to be a really good team week 1 in the Green Bay Packers. And the latest league updates from May 8th, the Broncos have cut Ben DiNucci. It was announced on social media by the Broncos. Martavius Bryant was cut by the Cowboys. Zay Jones, like I said, is visiting today. Odell Beckham Jr. signs officially announced with the team. Miami and him agreed to a one-year deal worth up to $8.25 million. The Patriots front office are interviewing Samir Sluman, former Panthers vice president of football administration, for a front office position, reported by Ian Rappaport. And last but not least, Spencer Wage, a defensive lineman for the 49ers, was cut. So that is the NFL news roundup for May 8th. Keep in mind that there's going to be a ton of interviews coming up in this month. By the end of May, there will probably be about 20 of them. I put out on a Reddit thread that I was interested in interviewing Bronco fans. I did this on every sports fan, and for some reason with the Broncos one, I had 33 people respond to me. And they would comment things like, "What do I have to do to be the one that gets selected?" I was like, "No, I'll just do it all." And you guys can all, look at each other's interviews, and it's kind of becoming a Broncos home for a lot of people. And for that, I'm really excited, as you can tell by everything going on behind me. But there's people that had season tickets gifted from their grandfather down to the father, down to them. There are people that grew up as a Broncos fan in New Zealand that I'm bringing on. And this comes only 3 days after interviewing a Ravens fan from Australia. So we're going international with our interviews here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about what's around the corner. And of course, tomorrow I will see you guys live on the Only Football podcast with Rick. And I might not be here because I got a flight to catch, but I will still see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for everything. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you're new, and have a great day. I'll see you guys soon.